Hello Final Fantasy fans, I'm Jackie Fox, and I know I just made a much longer than usual video about kind of the economics behind the Crash mission and why it feels a little bit unfortunate that so quickly into a game we're seeing high difficulty content like this that you essentially have to pay to participate in. Actually, truly participate in. I think that it's possible for a free-to-play to definitely beat the 170 with a good strategy, but I think going beyond that might genuinely be a bridge too far. But then again, people are always more creative and able than I'm willing to give them credit. So there are definitely players out there who probably could, but... And while that appeals to the Super Boss fans of Final Fantasy lore, and also like it feels super fitting, especially to have the one-winged angel version of Sephiroth be that iconic super boss. Let's talk about farming the actual event, because I think getting Barrett's weapon is going to be fucking incredible for him. This is a huge deal, I think. I think this pair is really good, and I really love the idea that at each event we're getting pairs of equipment that have the same R abilities, because this is making it really easy to build combos with that without having to wail out and buy everything that you possibly see. And this really counters some of the issues that you see with that were highlighted in the other video. But it's imperative that you be able to actually farm this event. So let's look at my team and what I'm doing. At least for farming tickets, I'm using a team that is, wow, actually now powered at over 140,000. I got their HP up a little bit since the last video, so I'm now, yay, cracking that 140k threshold. But let's look at the choices that I made. Now you're going to need 2 at a time of each of these 3 glyphs, so that's a pretty tough building constraint, but there are a couple ways to work around that, and one of them is going to be with Sephiroth here. So if you have his edged wings, which is kind of the premium sword for him, that was the Gacha sword for him. Although like you had to pull all of them pretty much except for the nameless, but that was, and in fact it might have been even easier to pull the edged wings since it had a featured rate up no matter what you picked on the wish list. So let's maybe assume that hopefully you have edged wings, because if you ran that main, you would be able to get an X breaking glyph. Like basically your third, you would get down here in this materia slot, instead of the healing boost, you would be getting I think it's an X boost, to where instead of doing 3 damage to glyphs, you do 5 damage to glyphs with this skill. And that is going to reduce the time, because they are 2 glyphs combined for all of Sephiroth's abilities. 2 of the 3. That's going to mean that 2/3 of those skills you can chew through with basically Sephiroth alone, and that takes a lot of pressure off the rest of the party. If you really want to make this redundant, you can also put Cloud up front, because that's going to give him access to the same tech with the Marasame, but for the triangle. So that is going to be, between the 2 of them, you will always be able to eat through these super fast with very little support. That's going to open you up to be able to work into your formations, basically use the best stuff that you can, but try to get, like, I mean, personally, I'm going for several, I guess there's 2 philosophies that you could go with here, and maybe adopting a slightly different one would be smarter. Let's go with that. Actually, let's try to do some breaking in here too. Let's see where I can fit in some breaks. Okay. Let's get the Ruinera up there. Let's do a Fire Breach. Actually, let's do a lightning breach and an ice breach. This is because I have the edged wings and the Morasame. So both of my DPSs, their most powerful moves, respectively, are going to be ice and lightning elemental. So those are the breaches that I'm going to want. That means that when I can line up with that particular elemental weakness for Sephiroth, I can punish it especially and effectively well, without really worrying about what additional elements I'm running. Although I see that I'm running Deadly Fire. So what I could do, potentially, what I could do is switch one of those fires over so that it's a fire breach, and then I have kind of a break and damage strategy for a third element. That's really going to cover at least half of my bases, which means every fight is going to have, I mean, unless I get really bad RNG and just everything lines up with elements that I can't break, and there's only 3 that we really can break, so I'm breaking in every element that I possibly can with this build. Let's see. Let's actually look at stats. Let's see who is... Ooh. Okay, so Cloud has Sephiroth just a bit in damage. And Aerith has the most HP in the party. Okay, well that's wild. Does she have the most defense as well? She does. Okay, that's good. That actually works. It feels weird, but it works because there are a couple things that you should know about Sephiroth's AI in addition to the things that I've told you so far. So the other tech that I'm using here, Sephiroth is going to be using both single target and AoE attacks. AoE attacks are going to hit your whole party. That's how that shit works. But the single target attacks are going to target the person with the most HP. So initially, you want the person with the most HP in your party to also probably have the most physical defense, because Sephiroth's single target attacks are all physical, whereas all of his AoE attacks are magical. So a lot of that's going to come from sub-equipment, although this is kind of depending on who you're using. Also, it's kind of wild that Aerith has the most physical defense for this party. But it is what it is. Especially with it not coming from that. Okay, whatever. That's really wild. But 142 for physical defense is pretty great for her. Do we have like a lot coming? No. It's not the gear either. I could increase her healing. That is actually a really good idea. Yeah. Let's see. But she has basically no magic defense. Because they're hogging it all. Did I change any of her gear? How did her HP go down? Oh, right. It was the Rosy Battle gear. She is still the most HP in the team. So, okay, everything applies still. I've got her as close as I can to highest physical defense. As you can see, it can be kind of hard to actually do that in practice, but that's what you're aiming for. For your lower HP person, you want them to have strong magical defense. And that's actually Cloud here, and he does not necessarily have the strongest magical defense, because a lot of that stuff is over here on Sephiroth. Because I want him getting targeted when they're really high HP, and her as well. Okay, so they're both well above Cloud. Cloud is pretty low, and I guess I just have to suck it up and admit that with my equipment, that's the highest I can get his magic defense in that slot without also increasing his HP, because as a free-to-play, a lot of my magic defense gear is tied to having, to increasing HP, so that is what it is. And I think with that, I've probably fretted over this build way more than enough. And my goal in doing that is that if your party has a lot of the same components as this party, then you'll be able to build this. This is also why, I mean, I think I could run potentially a faster party if I swapped these two swords, because I would be able to break through all of the glyphs faster. But for most people, I think you're going to have the free sword, right? You're all going to have the free sword. Whether or not you got the edged wings is a question of did you pull on the banner, but you're all going to have the torn the torn wing. So I think, showing you the build that utilizes that as your main weapon is a lot more important. Anyways, all of that theory crafting aside, let's actually see how the farming mission goes, and I'll show you kind of how all of this works in practice. With these first couple of waves, it's important to remember that while it's not something you can break for, it is actually really easy to take these guys down with wind element attacks, which is their weakness. Then here we are coming into Sephiroth. Now in the higher level stuff, you're going to get a much more painful attack early on, but as you can see, he's attacking my highest HP unit and then AoE attacking all of us, which is roughly the same pattern that he uses in higher levels. It's also worth pointing out that non-elemental attacks work pretty well here, and you'll see what I mean about this particular sword coming in handy, because being able to knock that down by 5 instead of by 3 is going to save me a whole attack here. Now that I've got that out of the way, ooh, that additional healing looks good on her. I really like that, actually. And it makes me a little bit sad that I got the swimsuit for her, just because of how well that already works. But that's some good healing power. I'm gonna break some bravers into this guy. Actually, it's still, with the way that my garb is set up and with a lot of my bonuses, it looks like Thunderstrike is still doing considerably more damage, even though it has some wind-up time. So it looks like that's going to be the way you want to go if you have it. My Sephiroth is kind of doing the same with his sword. And as you can see, with those two units being kind of the highest in terms of power on my, or in terms of HP on my team, they are very commonly taking the brunt of these big attacks like that. And it's also fairly easy for them to just heal us back up rather quickly. The healing power up as to utilize Sephiroth as a single target healer, because think about it this way. You have a powerhouse that you're fighting who is both a high damage single target unit and a good AoE unit. So in order to heal back, you need two healers, basically. He's going to be doing the damage of two units, so take two healers to fully kind of counter him and stabilize, and one of them needs to be strong single target healer, and running the torn wing up front actually allows you to do that, I think, in a more meaningful way. And I think that this actually is going to be a lot more stable even into higher stuff. And I think that there's a lot of higher play actually that could utilize, and really this is the same strategy that I use into higher tiers of this. But let's actually play, I want to do another round just to, I don't know, test a couple of things, see if things are a little bit different, like if we come up against weaknesses or stuff that are particularly like beneficial for the team. If we line up against like a fire weakness for him, or... And I'm gonna just let this run on auto. Honestly, usually I play really well and attentively in Simi, but it's kind of hard to like take a step back and think through it and narrate it and play all of those roles and all of those hats at once while you're like remembering how to do that on screen. Let's also speed this process up a bit since we're in full auto now. So once again, one of my DPSs is using wind to cut through these guys. Again, it's not super important because you can kind of break them down pretty quickly like that, but if they're giving you a lot of trouble, wind will help you cut through them faster. And as you can see, water resistance, can't break that, but here we are, and let's go ahead and get the LBs out so that we can do that extra damage with Sephiroth while we have the extra ATB. Kind of try to maximize that by getting that buff activated now. He's got a lot of buffs up because of our LBs right this moment. So now we're interrupting and Sephiroth is just pounding in for damage. Cloud 2. We're having no real trouble keeping up with HP between these two. Let's see what happens after Octaslash and maybe... See, Octaslash is doing about half of Sephiroth's HP and damage. At a higher tier, that would probably do more like 60, 70... Nah, more like 70 or 80% of his HP. To the point where you would need both an AoE heal and a single target heal. Like, you would need 2 heals targeting him to actually recover from it. Just kind of like that. And you can see how, you know, having that secondary healer is really important here. A strong single target heal goes a long way in addition to your AoE healer versus Sephiroth. Ooh, no gold. Well, that feels bad. Let's do one more. See if I can get no gold again. Some people were saying that that was a huge problem. That's actually the first time I've seen it happen, but like I haven't grinded this like crazy. You know, I've maybe done it 5 or 10 times on this level. So while I have a lot of experience with like this set, maybe not necessarily this particular fight and how the rewards work, but I would say at least in my experience 90% of the time I get a decent little number of gold tickets, if not a pretty good number of gold tickets. I don't think I've seen a ton of Cactuars, so I can't tell you what like the rare encounter bonuses are, but looking forward to it because the bright side, one of the big bright sides of this side of the event, while it does seem like the gold tickets are going to be really hard to get, at the same time the prize pools are massively deflated compared to what they are for both the bronze and silver pools. So, and I'll show you this here in a second. This will be how I end out the video, showing you the size of the prize pools, because I think this is something that some people haven't noticed, and they kind of assume that you would need, because like in my previous video I said like this system feels like a bad way to do a box summon because it feels like I need so much to do so little. But the inverse is actually kind of true of the gold tickets, because of the smaller size of the prize pool, you work your way through each prize tier with a relatively low number of tickets if you spend them wisely. So, I mean, it's not hard at all to probably burn through this really quickly, and I'm already through the first tier or so. Although, since there's only one tier that's actually dropping Barrett's weapon, I'm wondering where I'm going to get all of the rest of them, or if there's just going to be that many more. I haven't necessarily looked at it to see if it's a matter of like there's going to be more and more copies of the weapon on higher tiers or something, but we can look at that together as soon as I finish Sephiroth off. So we're getting an Octaslash in here, and I'm going to retaliate with Cross Slash pretty much right away. You can see Sephiroth actually getting, you can see Aerith actually getting through that a lot more easily than you would think she would, especially given her reputation in Final Fantasy VII lore. Don't spoil it. No spoilers in the comments, guys. Just kidding. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, well, got some gold tickets that time. So let's go and cash some of these in and see what the gold rewards look like. I only got 100. Okay, so let's see the guide, prize details. 1. Oh wait, so okay. There's going to be multiple copies on the higher levels once I get past this one. Dang it. But I have already burned through most of the prize pool here. You see, obtained 19 of 29. And again, for a comparison, the prize pool for this level, which is pretty big, I mean, admittedly, even compared to some of its previous levels, has been pretty big, is 118. So that's about, I don't know, four times as big. And then down here in bronze, we're already at 211. But this is, well, actually, this isn't even the final pull. This is where I need to get my last torn edges. Let's see if I can luck out. No, not doing it. Do I have any silvers left? 20. Okay. All right. So with all that being said, I really hope this helps you out a lot in your farming of the Sephiroth, the Arrival event. And maybe even helps you with Crash Battle. If you have any good theories as to how to get through like 170 and the Crash Battle as a free-to-play player without like super expensive requirements, let me know about it. Shoot me a link, tell me about it in the comments, all sorts of things. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the video, to the channel, all of those things. Look down the description. There's going to be a link that will lead you to all other parts of the Jackie Fox Media Empire. So if you want to see podcasts, other video channels, other stuff like that. I also have books. I sell books. Please buy my books so I can buy myself food. Those things are always nice. Both fiction, non-fiction. Well, I'm sorry, not non-fiction. They're both fiction. But realistic or fantasy, depending on what you're into. If Final Fantasy isn't your only fantasy, then you could check out my books. Or if Final Fantasy is the only fantasy that you like, you could check out the realistic fiction I have as well. So it's up to you. Just be sure to check out that link in the description and look for ways that you could potentially support the channel if you were so inclined, because I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and happy spooky season. Looking forward to Halloween. That should be coming soon, as well as level 55 for us. So if you're having trouble with this now, maybe it'll still be around when level 55 comes out, and we'll be able to test that out against Sephiroth and maybe do even better than we had imagined. But also maybe not counting on that. So, farm the best things that you can. Do as good as you can, because I think that the in combination with the Torn Edge, I think that Barrett's weapon is going to be quite helpful for free-to-play players, and really everybody. I think everybody wants this. It's just, will everybody think that it's worth farming? Will everybody have a good strategy for that? I don't think so. So hopefully this strategy helps you, and if it does, I'll see you in the next one.